Hello and welcome to episode 55 of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I am your host and co-founder, Aaron Breitman, coming to you the day after an epic comeback for Rutgers men's basketball, one of the more memorable and remarkable victories in Rutgers men's basketball history, let's be honest. Rutgers trailing 19 points, 42-23, 17 minutes into the second half. And things did not look good for sure. Rutgers struggling terribly on offense. Defense had started to turn around, but certainly, had gotten away from them at the start of the game. Penn State, has shot at a relatively good clip up to that point and did not look good. And, true to fashion, Rutgers, as they've been pretty consistently throughout the Steve Peichel era, backs against the wall, come through more times than not, many more times than not, I would say. And here we are, a week left in the regular season, and Rutgers men's basketball now two crucial quad one road victories back to back. Huge boosters for their resume. Now 4 quad one road wins, 6 quad one wins total. In terms of quad one victories on the road, they're one of just 11 teams projected to make the NCAA tournament, or 11 teams total in college basketball to have 4 quad one road victories. There's less than 20 that have 6 quad one victories overall. And they're just in really good shape at this point. It's still work to do. Their metrics aren't as good as they were a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, the loss of Mawat Mag, they're now 2-4 without Mag. They were metrics that were in the teens in both KenPom and net. Now they are net as of last night after all the games were done, number 32. KenPom, they're 31. Still very strong. They do have 3 quad 3 losses. Which could change. Michigan is surging. That was a quad 3 loss. That could change pretty quickly. I think that has changed, actually, as I'm thinking out loud. But they still do have 3. I know Temple is 1. And then you have Seton Hall as the other. And I'll have to get to the third one. But overall, the resume is still in pretty good shape. You do have Minnesota coming up in the next game for Rutgers men's basketball on Thursday at Minnesota. Just to clarify, I'm sorry, it was a little bit late in the day, short on sleep. It was Nebraska. So Seton Hall, Nebraska, and Temple are the quad 3 losses. Michigan moved up to a quad 2. They were, in quad 3 territory for a while. But that's a quad 2. So overall, when you combine quad 1 and quad 2, Rutgers is 9-8. They do have those 3 losses, 2-3 on quad 3, 7-0 in quad 4, all really big margin of victories, which helps the net. And then in the next day, I'm going to have Brad Wachtel of Facts and Brax on to talk about bracketology, and we're going to really dive into all the scenarios. But Rutgers fighting for a top half of the Big Ten finish at 10-8. 8 teams now, aside from Purdue clinching the Big Ten title. You have 7 teams between 11-7 and 10-8. The tiebreakers are crazy, head-to-heads, all that stuff. But the bottom line is, I believe Rutgers can go 2-0 this week. They have Minnesota, and then they have Northwestern at home on senior night, Sunday night, Caleb McConnell night. Probably the last Big Ten game of the regular season, and will be a ton on the line. So hopefully, things will. I really ties me all back to last night, and I wanted to harp on a few things just in terms of the victory for Rutgers in beating Penn State. It's the defense. First of all, we're going to get to the offense and kind of player contributions, but defensively, they were elite in that second half. They held Jalen Pickett without a shot. One of the best players in the country, without question. He'll be a first-team All Big Ten player. He's an All-American. Did not allow him to shoot a shot. They dared Penn State to beat them any other way. Caleb McConnell definitely gets the bulk of the credit on his defensive job. He defended Pickett great in the first meeting as well, former high school teammates. Caleb McConnell we'll get to in a minute. But overall as a team, they were trapping him. They were just denying him. I mean, Cliff even hedged on his screen and got his hand up on a three-pointer that Pickett ultimately didn't shoot late in the game. the team defense was tremendous. And it just proved that, while they do miss Mag, this team is still formidable as a defensive team. They're still number 3 nationally in defensive efficiency. They're still number 1 by a pretty wide margin in defensive efficiency in the Big Ten play. This team can still play defense. I thought last night, as much as the confidence they can take away from that win on the offensive end, I really think it's underrated in the sense that they can defensively as well. Because even though Penn State, is not an imposing team inside, they're the best 3-point shooting team in the Big Ten. Obviously Rutgers lost to Iowa twice, got shot the lights out against them. But now against Penn State, they played great defense. Penn State 4 of 26 in the first meeting, 8 of 29 in the second. Yes, some of that's a little bit lucky, you could say, in terms of Penn State having off shooting night. Seth Lundy, the best 3-point shooter in the Big Ten, 0 for 11 from 3. Andrew Funk is top 5. He was 1 of 7. But, and as it was said in BTN during the game or in the post game, I can't remember, the toll that Rutgers wears on opponents physically, mentally, I think that's part of it. And this team's got to get their mojo back in a lot of ways, but defensively, I think, they need to have more confidence defensively. And we saw what happened against Michigan, against Nebraska. And Michigan, they didn't play poorly defensively. They just weren't near an elite level that we're accustomed to seeing from them. So I thought that was huge last night. And the way they just held Penn State without a field goal the last 9-15 of the game. It's incredible. It really is. Held them to 14 points the final 17 minutes of the game. In terms of individual contributions, let's, of course, start with Derek Simpson. What a star turn he took yesterday. And I saw some people say, the emergency's too quick to anoint him, as having emerged now. But I think people forget, in December against Indiana, he did something similar. Not as impressive, but it was impressive at the time, especially being very early in his freshman year. He took over that game in the second half and was a big reason why Rutgers blew Indiana out. Last night was a different story. So Rutgers is down 17, approaching halftime. It was really important for them to get as close to single digits in the deficit as possible. He scored the final 7 points of the half. Absolutely huge for Rutgers that he was able to do that. And then it really, Penn State came out, scored those 9 points in a row, start the second half. Paul Mulcahy picked up 3 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the second half, 3 minutes of the second half. Simpson comes back in. And, just kind of picked it right back up. And I thought what was great about him too is it's not just his mentality. The mentality flipped for the team in the second half because of Simpson, because of his ability to get downhill, because of his assertiveness and wanting to attack. But he was looking for his teammates more so yesterday. He shot early, and then he was able to draw pressure and kick out and find teammates. And, Rutgers did find, something that worked in terms of the weave up top, making a pass and then working off a screen. Simpson ran that several times. And what was great about that for Rutgers is they were able to score in different ways off the same play. They had a kick out to Oscar on the wing. He nailed the 3. They were able to get it to Cliff off the pick and roll. Simpson was able to score directly off it. So was Cam Spencer, either get to the rim or pull up jumper. So I think they found something there, and they've run that at times. They did a little bit of that in Michigan State down the stretch as well. But Derek Simpson's ability to attack the rim, his defense is so much better now. But if he can run the offense now, it's an intriguing possibility and does give Paul Mulcahy the opportunity to work off the ball more. When he was able last year to post up and get fed the ball a little bit more, than just straight kind of dribble and back down your defender, I thought it was more effective. Mad scientist approach, thinking about it. I would love to see Paul setting screens for Derek and working a 2-man game that way. I think that would be fascinating, especially on mismatches in terms of Paul's size. Paul, I think, he kind of bottomed out yesterday in terms of his production. No points, fouled out. And I said this in a tweet, and I said this in my reaction videos too. Rutgers needs Paul Mulcahy. They need him badly. They need his production. They need his assertiveness. He's the leader of this team. And Derek Simpson emerging now is not a call for Paul to have a smaller role. It's adapting, it's adjusting, it's using Paul maybe a little differently, and maybe that's better for Paul. I do think that, we don't know, and I'm not speculating in the sense of I know anything or I'm trying to lead in any direction. But, listen, Paul's had shoulder issues all season. We don't know where he's at with that. That could have been playing and could be playing into his confidence right now. A little bit less wear and tear, having to bring the ball up every possession, shouldering the load, the pressure. Having Simpson be able to stand up next to him could really do wonders for his mentality. I thought Oscar Palmquist, really impressive what he's been able to do just in terms of, I looked this up and I couldn't even believe it. I mean, he didn't play 1 minute in January, not a minute. He did not play one game in January. And here we are after February, 8 games. He is 10 of 23 from 3, 38.8%. He just hit 2 monster threes last night. And what I love about him is that, he's Peichel has given him opportunities throughout the last couple of years. Not a lot, but some, especially early in the season. And Palmquist, unfortunately, wasn't really able to ever take advantage. And, I think if you go back and look, there's a clear body language difference with him now. His confidence level, I kind of equate it, and maybe it's not the best analogy, but he's almost like a big dog that doesn't know they're a big dog and hangs out with a bunch of little dogs in terms of how he held himself on the floor. Now, if you look at him, he's standing tall, and the way he, is in his catching position, the way he's able to spring into his shot, his release point is so high, he can shoot over a lot of defenders. And his catch and shoot mechanics are much better than they used to be. And I think a lot of it is just confidence and being comfortable on the court now. And he's really settled in, since he had that breakthrough against Minnesota and then Matt got hurt. Michigan State was a little bit of deer in headlights, I thought, but he's gotten gradually better, gradually more comfortable. He's more competent defensively. He's not making mistakes. When he used to come in, he was very jumpy. He would turn it over. He would take a bad shot. He's not forcing things. He's playing within the offense. He's playing his role. And when he gets good shots within the flow of the offense, he's knocking them down. And he's adding an element to this team that they have not had. And that's what I've been kind of talking about the whole time is that, I understand people are frustrated with the downturn after Mag, and everybody keeps saying, one player can't do that. But Rutgers has been trying to figure out a new way to play. And it's not drastic, but they have to be different. They can't be the same as they were with Mag. And having a Derek Simpson who can give them he has a unique skill set for this team in terms of by far being the best creator of offense, being able to get downhill to the rim and create. Nobody else can do it like him. Oscar Palmquist, 6'8" wing that can spot up and shoot threes and has a release point that really is kind of unblockable. That gives them another element. And Antoine Woolfolk, can't, I don't think it's fair to count on him yet. I'm starting to feel like we can count on Oscar a little bit. He's not going to hit shots every game, but I feel comfortable with him in the game now. I don't think we lose much with him in the game now, where I did before. Wolf, I thought yesterday he only played 8 minutes, but you know what? If he can give Cliff 8 minutes of rest, and we know that he can defend the rim, he can rebound, and he can incorporate screening action into the offensive sets, and that he's competent doing that, and he's not going to be a foul machine, all of which happened last night. That's a huge plus. That's a huge plus to be able to count on him for 8 to 10 minutes, give Cliff a blow in both halves, especially in the postseason when adrenaline's going to be high. If they can get through a break each for Cliff in each half, and Woolfolk can provide that stability, that's a huge game too. And I don't think that should be understated. I kind of loved when he went in against Michigan and literally just pushed Dickinson off the ball and just fouled him right away. I thought at the time, Rutgers needed that kind of mentality. They needed someone to say, hey, we're fighting back. And I think the young guys, and Oscar's not really young. It's his third year in the program. But in terms of what they were able to provide now off the bench, they kind of have a fresh perspective, and I thought the three of them were just enormous last night, huge in the win. And then you have Caleb McConnell, who played tremendous on both ends in the second half, 4 of 5 from the floor, 9 points in the second half, holding Pickett to no shots. Obviously got some help, but really did a great job in that regard. And, Pikel made it clear after the game he's not 100%. He's battling through stuff, his back, back spasms. And I think, just this team in general. I mean, we've seen games where they've looked worn out, and they had every reason to pack it in last night. They, could have very easily felt sorry for themselves, packed it in, gotten on that bus on 30-point loss. And, the perception of the team, what that loss would have done just in terms of Penn State having a similar resume, it would have been a very damaging loss, especially to lose by 30 points. So for them to gut it out and just claw back like that, I really think this is the moment where this team, and there's going to, listen, it's not going to be all, rainbows and sunshines and lollipops from here on out. There's going to be ups and downs, but this could be a turning point in the sense of this is where the team kind of bought in and regained a different identity post-MAG. This is the moment where they're officially post-MAG. They're no longer in that kind of bereavement period, purgatory. I think now there's things that happened that will help this team long-term now moving forward. With just the way they were able to win, the way they were able to come back, it was huge. Cliff, I thought it was just so huge the way when Simpson with that unbelievable ISO drive to tie the game and get fouled, take the lead. He did the same thing with about 30 seconds to go, and he was very effective in getting in the rim, but he missed a shot. Cliff was boxed out, but it was a pure effort play from Cliff. He got the rebound, he put it back, and he made the shot, and it was huge. To give him that 3-point lead, that was just everything. And I just, his effort level, he's not the most sound offensive player. He's not the most skilled offensive player. Defensively, I think he's made major strides. He's, an athletic freak. But I don't think he gets enough, because he's such an amazing athlete. I don't think he gets enough credit for how hard he plays in terms of his motor, and he's just his effort plays. He makes a ton of effort plays that almost don't look like effort plays because he's just so huge. He's so skilled in terms of being athletic, and is able to kind of, compensate for mistakes because of his athleticism. And I think that his effort and just how hard he goes at it. He played 38 minutes against Wisconsin. And last night, again, Wolf gave him, 8 quality minutes off the bench. But Cliff was all go the other 32, and 13 rebounds, only 9 points. But, and I think the other thing, too, is that, his attitude, I think it should not be lost on how good his attitude is. He's not, sulking if he doesn't get the ball. He's not, being a diva. And this is a guy that has pro aspirations, and he is the ultimate team player. And I think it's just huge for this team. Cam Spencer, they're looking for him more and more now, which is really important. Again, another part of the dynamic of this team evolving post-MAG. The timeouts, I've talked about it before, but, the way this team executes timeouts, or after timeouts, possessions after timeouts in the Pikel era, they're very impressive. Pikel always seems to call the right plays out of a timeout. And last night, a lot of them were for Cam Spencer, and he was able to hit on a few. And I love the way the swagger he played with. And let's talk about that final defensive possession. If you go back and look at it, when Penn State was about to have one last desperation three, Spencer swiped and stole the ball, And then another thing that, it didn't matter because the clock had just run out, but when he got the ball, he threw it down the court. And that was just a heady play that, veterans make, that I thought, he just brings an element to this team. His craftiness on the defensive end, his ability to produce steals, but also just his head. He's a very smart player, not to mention his knockdown shooting ability. But I thought he played well last night. And, this team just, it's like they're putting it back together, and they just need to build a little momentum here. And I do think whatever that new ceiling is, they're close to turning things around in the sense of I think they can accomplish whatever their new ceiling is. Is that going far in the Big Ten tournament? Is that the second weekend in the NCAA tournament? We don't know. You got to get through Minnesota. You got to get into the Big Ten tournament. I think just for confidence reasons, I mean, it would be nice to see them win a Big Ten tournament game. But I think for their NCAA tournament chances, you beat Minnesota on Thursday, you're in really good shape. Are you a lock? Some people will say they're a lock. I think they probably will be a lock. But it would just be really great to see this team finish strong, go into the postseason with on a roll, and get that last one at the rack for Caleb, for the fans who've seen them lose 2 in a row now at home. I thought getting on the road was really good for this team. They've now won 4 road games in Big Ten play, 4th season in a row. Going for 5 against Minnesota would be a program record. Never finished 5-5 in Big Ten play. And now they have clinched also 4 consecutive years, 10 or more wins in Big Ten regular season play, which is astonishing because they won 16 in their first 5 years. 16 total. And they've now won 10 or more, 4 consecutive seasons. They are one of 5 programs to do that. Michigan's done it. Actually, I have to double check that, but Iowa, Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin possibly could do it. They're 8-10 right now, and Michigan. So it's a small list, and Rutgers is right there. So where they finish in the tiebreaker in the regular season standings, we'll see. I wouldn't try to figure it out yet. Let's see how Thursday plays out, and then Saturday, Sunday will be a bunch of scenarios. But I just love the heart of this team, and I thought the way they played last night, it wasn't just that they won. It wasn't just how they won, but it was what they could take away from this win moving forward and how they can play a different way and an effective way for them that they can win with. And I think, Derek Simpson taking a larger role in the offense, Paul Mulcahy having some of that load shouldered a little bit. Bad pun, I think, because he is with the shoulder all year. But I think, he's a I mean, if you think about it, I mean, he's a confidence player, and he's been in a big rut. The way he played against Michigan State was beautiful. And if he can get back to that, the way he played at the end of last year, or not even the end of last year, that stretch in February, if he can get rolling for the postseason, Derek Simpson keeps getting better, has a ton of confidence. Andre Hyatt, I haven't really talked about, but he's had some big games late. What will Peichel do moving forward? Does he start Simpson now and put Hyatt back on the bench? I kind of like that idea. I think Hyatt's also a confidence player, and kind of I think mentally he kind of got his head around coming off the bench and excelled at it. So I think, I don't know what's going to happen, and they maybe can't play small, to start against every matchup, but I think it would be great to see Simpson in the lineup with Paul Moore. And then you have Caleb, Cam, and Cliff with Hyatt, Oscar, rotating in on the wings. And then you have Wolf giving Cliff breaks. Reber didn't play last night. Peichel mentioned in the postgame, he's another guy. He gives him another look too. He can hit a 3. This team is, I think, I don't think you can count on consistent bench production from a scoring standpoint, but I think this bench is starting to show that they are reliable in some regard, in the sense of, I don't think they're at the point where they're going to make a ton of mistakes. Turnovers is obviously the key. 4 turnovers last night, but I'm really excited about where this team is headed. I think, there's a lot of season left, and I think last night I hope and think it's possible we could look back on last night as the turning point of where this team kind of reinvented themselves and took off before a memorable March, which is here this week, starting Thursday night at the Barn, Williams Arena, Minnesota. I'm going to have Brad Wachtel on the podcast for tomorrow, and we'll go through all the bracketology. I'm going to have Nick Costco here this week to go over the Big Ten Championships for wrestling, and I'll probably do another podcast individual after the Minnesota game. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this, these kind of therapy sessions help, but today is a positive one. And I think, Rutgers fans just have to stay the course, stay positive, believe in this team. There's going to be ups and downs, but we're at the most exciting part of the season. And I think this team showed a ton of heart, a ton of grit, and they have a lot more basketball to play. Thank you again for listening to the Scarlet Faithful podcast.